Okay, so let's get into it. First, I want to introduce our two presenters for the day. First, we have Dr. Marie Moe, who is a research scientist working with threat intelligence and incident response at Mnemonic. She has experience as a team leader at Norcert, where she led their incident response and incident handling responsibilities in cyber attacks against Norway's critical infrastructure. And Marie also has a PhD in information security and is an associate professor at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, or NTNU, where she teaches the course Incident Response, Ethical Hacking, and Forensics. Afterwards, we'll have a presentation from Matthew Dirick, who is working with F5 and has been there for nearly 9 years. And today he's acting as a solutions architect for the entire EMEA region. Matthew holds a CISSP and has a wide portfolio of skills that he has built over his 20-year career. And now he's specializing in application delivery and security, network security, API security and management, and SecDevOps. So if you do have any questions throughout the presentations, you can submit these at any time. And this is a question for either one of the presentations. At the end of both presentations, we'll then have a short Q&A session where we'll go through these questions. If you don't see the Q&A panel on the right side of your WebEx, then you should look for this little question mark icon that we have circled here. The experience can be a little bit different depending on if you're on the desktop or the browser client. And when you do submit your questions, please enter the questions to all panelists so that we can all see your questions come in. Okay, but that's it for me. And I now want to welcome Marie, who will be giving a threat intelligence update.
Thank you. You just have to make me a panelist. Yeah, thanks. Okay. Thank you for the introduction. I have the honor of starting the webinar today with a brief update on the cyber threat landscape. So what's going on today? So what I want to focus on is two different threat actors that we of course always have on our radar in a threat intelligence team. The first is the state-sponsored threat actors, which we see are active all the time, specifically in espionage operations, but we also see more disruptive attacks. We see information operations, and also, of course, the financially motivated attackers, which has really become a big problem over the last few years, particularly when it comes to ransomware. There's a big activity related to ransomware, and this is something that all organizations, all companies really need to have on top of their list of threats to worry about and to be prepared to respond to. And then, of course, we also have the business email compromise attacks, which maybe don't get as much press attention, media attention as ransomware, but it's still a huge risk for companies because this is something that can cost you a lot of money if you happen to become a victim of those threat actors. And I would say common to those two different groups of threat actors is the way they're doing their initial access currently. So we see three major techniques that they are currently using. First of all is of course phishing or other types of social engineering, where a user is enticed into clicking a link. It could be in an email, but could also be, for instance, on social media and in chats, where they are, tempted with interesting job offers or similar, and click on something and don't even know that they have been compromised by clicking on that link. And then we have the remote login, which doesn't really require any user interaction, where we see the attacker is using valid credentials could be credentials that have been previously leaked, been part of a data leak, that are typically for sale on underground forums. It could also be by just the attacker trying lots of different common username password combinations, so-called password spraying or credential stuffing activity. And the third category is when the threat actor is exploiting vulnerabilities that are typically in commonly used perimeter systems that in many cases are directly exposed to the internet, such as VPNs, firewall, remote desktop applications. So these are the three major ways of getting infected today. So I want to focus a little bit on ransomware, because we really see that the ransomware threats are increasing and evolving. And we see that the ransomware threat actors are actually reaching a really high maturity level at this time. So we've seen them evolved over the years, and they now have incredibly streamlined operations, as you can see in the ransomware as a service platform that have become increasingly popular, where the ransomware threat actors offer services to their affiliates, which use their tools, their platforms, to then infect their victims, and then they get like a dedicated a cut of a share of the profit that they are making. And this is real big money. It's a lot of money to be made in this business, and that's why, I mean, they have incentives to keep going. And it's really hard for us as defenders to really join forces and try to combat this threat. But of course, things are happening lately because of big hacks that have got a lot of attention, such as the Kaseya MSP that was hacked over the summer. Of course, the Colonial Pipeline, big incident that really created a lot of panic in the US. These threat actors have also become under increased pressure, which you can see in some cases where they are at least claiming to be more selective about their targets and not targeting critical infrastructure because of the potential for disruption. But yeah, it's hard to know what they're really thinking. And if you are a victim of such a threat actor, it can be a real challenge, you know, to go into a negotiation with them. But there are examples where this has also been successful, and victims have actually been able to retrieve the decryption keys in such a negotiation. So we see that the ransomware as a service threat actors and also other ransomware threat actors, they are now actually doing more targeted attacks, like almost in an APT style, where they're going after the bigger victims that they can get more money from, while previously they were more indiscriminate and like targeting all over the place. They are now actually selecting the victim, they're doing the reconnaissance on their victims, gathering information before they start their campaigns, before they select the victims and start the operations. And as we also see now is that over the last year, the double extortion schemes, where they not only encrypt files and ask for the ransom to give you your files back, they also steal your important information, or maybe embarrassing information that you don't want to have leaked on the internet, and then use that as a means to get even higher chance of getting money from you. This seems to become more of a standard way of operating now. So we see that the different ransomware threat actors they are learning from each other. They are adapting. They are evolving, and yeah, they are becoming more and more skilled and professional in running these streamlined operations. And as I mentioned, we've seen that remote login has really been under more attack, particularly after the pandemic and the shift to working from home. Because of this, there's a larger attack surface when everyone's connecting remotely. Also, there were some changes in how we as defenders are visibility into the systems when everyone's working from home. And of course, this has increased also, the digitalization and also the shift to cloud over the pandemic. So we see that it's like remote logging to email accounts, to company chat, to video conferencing tools, VPN solutions. These are all become really popular targets for attackers. Which means that it's really important to have your multi-factor authentication, your strong password policies, your secure configuration, and also to be always on top of patching of your internet exposed servers that are running services such as your VPN, your remote desktops, your SSH logins. It's become really crucial. And we've seen that there's a problem. It has been a problem that even though system administrators think they have enabled two-factor or multi-factor authentications, there have been some legacy systems that still allowed for bypass of this multi-factor authentication scheme. So I'm really happy that over the last week, Microsoft announced that they will be really deprecating the basic authentication on Exchange Online. But the date for this is set like 1 year in the future. So we'll still have to live with this problem for a while. But I guess now we get more focus on this, and maybe more system administrators will actually take a good look on their configuration, their settings, and see that they really shut off the basic authentication unless it's really needed. So be aware of this and other legacy systems that might allow your MFA bypassed. And we see, of course, that all these known vulnerabilities, so more research looking at endpoint devices equals more vulnerabilities being exposed, being disclosed, and more patches needs to be installed, because there is a race of time whenever there's a new patch out. Before you apply this patch, all the threat actors will then start scanning the internet and looking to exploit these vulnerabilities. So from the mnemonic SOC, we've seen this in our statistics. We've seen that there is a really rising trend in security incidents handled by the SOC, where user attackers gain unauthorized access to some resource. And this trend has been steadily increasing somewhat from 2017 as the first column in this graph, and is also connected to continued adoption of cloud services, because the identity sort of becomes your new parameters, and that's why these credentials are so popular for the threat actors to abuse. And this statistic actually shows how much this increased after the lockdown during the pandemic. So in this last column, this is the last 9 months of 2020. So we actually included the 3 first months before the lockdown in the third column, and we can see that it's really increased from 20% of all security incidents in 2017, and then up to astonishing 61% of all security incidents involving some type of account abuse post-pandemic. So lesson learned from some ransomware incidents. I just want to end with this before I hand it over to the next speaker. I would say that helping companies that have been victims of ransomware really want to stress that backups is super important. And we've seen incidents where attackers try to locate and delete backups. So really look into, are your backups really offline? Or is there a way for someone to, if they gain initial access, if they do lateral movement through your system, to actually locate these backups and also encrypt the backups? And also another thing is to make sure you have tested procedures for restoring your backups. And it's not enough to have the backups. usually takes a lot of time. You need to have processes, the right people trained into actually restoring backups. So this is something that is like top tip on looking into if you want to be prepared for ransomware incident handling. And also, of course, visibility. Think about your logging. Perform threat hunting. Like assume that you might have been breached, and create hypotheses for different types of threat actors maybe having already access to in your system, and try to actively look for them in historical logs. And also really recommend that you enable some detection capabilities for lateral movement. So do not only think about your perimeter. And of course, logging and auditing that cover both your on-premise system and your cloud signings. So yeah, check your incident response readiness. I think I will end on this and hand it over to the next speaker. Just want to say that if you want to have more deep dive into some of the topics that I've quickly mentioned now, I want to refer you to our mnemonic security report for 2021, where we have some really good articles written about all of these topics, and also more statistics from the SOC. So thank you, and your turn, Mathieu.
Thank you, Marie. Let me share. You should see my presentation. Okay, so rethinking application security. So yeah, the topic today is to present to you how to protect your application and your modern application, because as you may know, we're shifting to the left. Okay, shifting to the left means that we're migrating our traditional legacy application to modern applications. So what it means, transformation? Transformation means, first of all, as you can see, half of the application are vulnerable. So an application is not only a source code. Okay, an application is as well a framework, the web server hosting the application. Multi-cloud application can be spread across several locations. So I can have my front end in AWS, okay, and my middleware on premises. So I can have piece of my apps everywhere, okay. So if we take an example with Uber application or yeah, any modern application on a mobile device, I would say the account and the map can be on premises, and the banking, for instance, can be in a cloud. So of course, so it means application everywhere. And all modern application relies on API first. Okay, so a modern application is a front end with an API client making a lot of calls. Okay, so it's not a monolithic application anymore. In terms of application in enterprise now, okay, so the average enterprise applications number is 1,000. Okay, for in the finance it's a little bit more, on the retail a little bit less, but more or less a company has 1,000 apps. It could be a very tiny apps, okay, very tiny app making just one job, or it could be a very sensitive and advanced application for the business itself. So as Murray explained, the application are vulnerable, okay, and they will be always vulnerable, unfortunately. So it's important to understand that CV are exposed, so CV are disclosed, okay, this is the right term. So as you can see on the graph here, starting 2015, 2016, you can see a rise, okay, of the CV. It's not because we did code badly. It's just because now the vendors, editors, they have to disclose, okay, every vulnerability. Okay, they are mandate to disclose any CV, even if the CV is not coming from their own code. So for instance, okay, your application uses a library for SSL, for payment, for transfer, for anything else, you have to disclose. Okay, my application version XY has this CV. Okay, so CV is known vulnerabilities. So it's important because it means we know as a vendor, you know as a customer, but they know as a hacker. Okay, so this is a CV. And it's important to understand where the threats, as Mary explained, or the attack vectors come from. Okay, so an attack vector can target something that we know, the CV, the famous CV. Okay, so it's mainly for a framework. Okay, CV is not for source code. Not often time. Okay, it's mainly for a framework. So a framework is a library or is a web server. Okay, so an NGINX, an Apache, Tomcat, a 2IS. This is a framework. So you can see the operating system, the server itself, the library, the programming languages, okay, the PHP or the .NET, everything, stuff like that, and the third-party library that we import. These are the known vulnerabilities. And on the right side, we have the OWASP top 10. So you can go to owaps.org if you want. It's an organization that classify the threats, and every year the ranking changes. So most of the time, the first one is personal information leakage and SQL injection and cross-site scripting. These are the kind of categories. So there are 10 categories, and every year the ranking changes. So here it's there is no known vulnerabilities. Okay, so hacker so hacker can be a robot, but I will cover that later on. But a hacker, the bad guy, we try to exploit something. Okay, so he will make some tests, okay, and try to find a breach. And then when the breach is found, he will exploit this breach. So to do so, you're gonna use some kind of attacks like the injections, the cross-site scripting, and or the request forgery. Okay, these are the kind of attacks. So what it means? It means, okay, there are some threats. Okay, there are some known vulnerabilities. So but it's not a big deal. I have my security guys. Yeah, but most of the time you have one security guy for 10 DevOps. Okay, the guys maintaining the operation of the development of the app for 100 developers. So he's alone. Okay, and unfortunately, as you can see, this is the title of the slide, the pipeline is built for the speed. Okay, why? Because the developer has to release the code at the end of the sprint. The DevOps has to publish the code the day after, and the security should be aligned. And unfortunately, they are not, because he's alone. So it's our job to help this security guy, okay, to publish and make the application safe and secure. So first of all, before explaining the solution itself and how we can integrate in the pipeline, for instance, let's understand the different threat classes. Okay, so at F5, we decided to create 3 layers. The first layer, the green one, is an easy to deploy, an easy deployment layer of protection. Okay, so CV, something that we know, and OS top 10 common attacks. Okay, so it means it's not targeted. It's a robot trying to exploit a CV on a 2IS server or an Apache. It's easy to deploy. Okay, it's a kind of security framework that you publish in front of your apps. Okay, it's pretty easy. There is no customization here, of very few, very few. The second layer, the blue one, you can see it's targeted attack, okay, or hidden threat actor, as Mary explained. So here you can see some profiling or specific vulnerabilities that has been just discussed the day before, okay. The layer 7 DDoS, okay, so layer 7 DDoS is inside a very lightweight connection, TCP connection. The bad guy will send a lot of requests, millions of requests, but very small. So he passes through all the security system because the traffic is very low. It's very slow. Okay, so this is a targeted attack. So here we need to tune a little bit the security. And the last one, the purple one, is the fraud. The fraud is mainly oriented to steal something. Okay, so I want to steal the credential, as Mary explained. Okay, if I want to try to grab the credential, the login and the password that the user is entering. These are the kind of information here. So here is very specific, okay? It's specific to an application because application A and application B don't work differently. I mean, okay, so the login page on one side is a post and the other one is with an MFA or a certificate. So it's different. So it means that there are a lot of customization here. So let me try to explain how F5 solutions can fit depending where the application is deployed on premises, okay, or in the cloud, or perhaps it's a SaaS application, and as well if it is a traditional app or a modern app. So first of all, it's important to understand the consumption model. The consumption model means how you want to consume the solution. Okay, if I want something that I manage by myself, because I have the skills, have the manpower. Okay, so the second one is I want something partially managed, SaaS. Okay, so I have the skills to configure, but I don't have the skills to maintain. Okay, to maintain the solution. So here it's a SaaS solution. And the last one, I want to delegate everything to F5, and this is a fully managed. So as you can see, at F5, we have several solutions. I will focus on two today, okay, on two solutions. The two on the left, the self-managed. On the self-managed, we have the big IP solution, the traditional solution at F5 for 23 years now. So the big IP platform, okay, so you can deploy it as an hardware, as a virtual edition, as a virtual machine on premises if you want, if you have an SXI or a KVM, but you can consume it as well in the cloud, okay? We can deploy in a VM in the cloud in your own compute, or you can consume it in an RE billing in a marketplace. So the big IP is something you deploy by yourself, but we do have as well, since NGINX acquisition, the same WAF product in an NGINX platform. And the NGINX, and I will present you the pros, the cons, and when to select and where to select the NGINX versus the big IP. The Volterra, it's something new. I guess you saw, you may know that we acquired Volterra in January this year. Volterra is a SaaS solution with its own backbone, its own global network. So here it's our SaaS solution, and stay tuned. January, February next year, we will release something new here. And on the right side, I don't spend time. Silverline, fully managed, and Shape. Shape is more for the what Marie presented at the end for the account takeover. This is how we name it. Okay, it's when someone tries to grab your credentials. Okay. The Shape is more for the fraud inside your environment as a user. Okay, so as a user, my environment is my laptop, is my browser. So Shape is here to protect the user itself. Okay, to be sure that there is no malware, no ransomware downloaded when it connects to a website. This is Shape. It's not the topic today. So first of all, the question is, what are your needs? What are my needs? Which kind of level of security control, the level of security control I want, okay? Is it something fundamental? It's not sensitive. It's just a website for an event next week. And I just want to publish this website on AWS, but I need to have this website up and running 24/7 because it's for registrations, for instance. Or is it a very sensitive app, okay, for the business? Okay, if the app is down, it's $100,000 per hour lost, okay? So it's important to know exactly what we need in terms of application. So we do not select a solution for one app, okay? We have a mix of. And how do I want to consume the solution? I explained fully managed, SaaS, or self-managed. And let's go for the self-managed today. Okay, so that's why you can see I blur the partially managed and the fully managed. Today, let's focus on the self-managed, something that you will deploy by yourself and you will maintain by yourself, okay? Because you have the skills or you plan to have the skills, okay? But to be honest, it's not so complicated. So you can see 3 levels of protection. You remember my three layers, the green, the blue, and the purple. So here we will focus on the green and the blue. For the purple, it's mainly managed solution in order to have accurate protection. So I will cover the two products, the two solutions, the advanced WAF from the big IP and the NGINX App Protect. Okay, so NGINX is only software. You cannot buy an hardware for the NGINX. So first of all, it's important to understand the WAF story very quickly. The WAF used to be something simple, traditional. So OS top 10, the 10 categories, okay? SSL TLS inspection or decryption, of course, and some scripting to make some customization. Now the WAF, since 2019, I would say, the WAF is changing, and the WAF is not only a layer 7 firewall. Now the WAF is something that will control the fraud, the user behaviors, okay, and as well the API, because as I told you, all modern application relies on API. So it's important that these kind of products are able to detect and learn the APIs. And the last point is the bots. 50%, 50% of the internet traffic comes from bots. Some bots are good, some bots are bad. A good bot is Google Shopping, okay, for instance, or the Google referencer. It's important for me because I resell product on the internet. I want to be referred by Google. The bad bot, of course, is the bot scanning your application, okay, because it's trying to find breaches. So the next step is to know which kind of protection I need. Okay, so as you can see, if I start from the right, okay, from the right side where the hacker is, it's the goal is to put layers of protection in order to stop the, I would say, the most possible attackers. So 50% will be bots. Okay, so let's put bot protection first. Some bots are totally stupid. Some bots are very, very smart. So my bot protection will check if it is a stupid bot and I will block it. And if it is a smart one, perhaps I will not have the capabilities to be sure it's a human or a bot, so I will let it pass. The second layer will be more threat campaign. What is threat campaign at F5? Threat campaign is a feed, okay? So something that F5 will push to the F5 solution every day, sometime twice a day. And it's a kind of rules built by F5 engineers. So we have a SOC, we have a threat intelligence team. This is a term at F5. And those guys are white hat, okay, used to be hackers or darknet specialists, and they analyze the darknet, they analyze the botnet. We have our own botnet network, and we can detect if our own honeypotting network has been pwned. Okay, so we know that, okay, at the moment there is a campaign on Jakarta website or an Apache library, and we create a rules and the perfect rule for the attack. Okay, so we know exactly what will be the attack. This is threat campaign. Very, very efficient. Very, very efficient because it reduces the false positive. And I will explain what is a false positive. Attack signature, something I know, the CV. And the positive security is the last one that is very, very accurate. In that case, the policy, the security policy is tied to the app, okay? This is a positive security. It's something that we tune for the application. So the first solution is the advanced WAF. So the advanced WAF is, let's say, the premium solution out of 5 in terms of WAF. So it's a big IP, and inside this solution, we have all the security layers are presented. So the bot protection, and you can see the proactive bot protection. And now the name change is unified bot protection. So it's not just, is it a known bot as good or bad? The advanced WAF is able to challenge as well the bot. Okay, so if we have a connection, the advanced WAF is able to ask the source, are you human or are you a bot? And you ask some challenges. It's JavaScript challenges to know if it's a good or bad bot. Application layer encryption. It's something that is specific to advanced WAF. As Mary explained, now the login and the password are not safe. As Microsoft explained, they are moving to the fully passwordless. The application encryption is a way to encrypt on the fly in real time any sensitive information put by the user, okay, entered by the user in the app. So when I log in on my login page at the f5.com website, when I enter my password, I love mama, the big IP advanced WAF in real time in the browser, we encrypt the password. So if there is a malware inside my browser or I'm in the middle, it will not see I love mama, it will see something else. Credential protection, it's the same, okay, it's the same story. Mobile bot SDK, it's an SDK for mobile application. So if you have a mobile application for the same app, we have an SDK in order to make this app very safe and the user information very safe. And the last one is behavioral DDoS. I explained to you what is layer 7 DDoS, okay? Small pipe, huge traffic at layer 7. The advanced WAF has an engine built by mathematicians, and it learns the traffic and analyzes the traffic in real time. And it measures as well the server health, okay? So it measures the service is up and running. And as soon as the service is suffering, the advanced WAF starts protecting the app. So this is the advanced WAF. On the other hand, as you may know, we have the NGINX platform form factor. So first of all, NGINX #1 website now, okay, used to be Apache, now it's NGINX as a website, and you can see it's the busiest site, the busiest site choose NGINX, okay? So if you want, you can check the source and you get more information, but now if you connect to a website, you will be on NGINX most of the time. So NGINX used to be and is still an open source solution, okay? So you can see the N, okay, the green N without the plus, okay? This is the N only, is our open source solution, a web server, a reverse proxy, and some cache. But we built several years ago, before F5 acquired NGINX, we built the NGINX Plus. And the NGINX Plus is a commercial model with support and development from F5 developers versus the open source who comes from the community. The NGINX Plus will bring advanced features. Okay, so an advanced load balancing. What means advanced load balancing? It's more load balancing methods, more monitoring. Okay, these are the kind of more caching. This is the kind of advanced load balancing. The cache content, the web server itself is still there. Okay, security control, and this is the topic today, and monitoring. So checking the time. So for the NGINX, the name of the solution is NGINX App Protect, okay, or NAP. And we try to use NGINX App Protect. So NGINX App Protect is an advanced WAF. This is very important to understand, and I think this is the key of the presentation. The WAF into the advanced WAF and the WAF in the NGINX App Protect is exactly the same. It's the same source code, the same security solutions, security signatures, exactly the same. But the NGINX App Protect will be deployed close to the app, okay? So you can deploy an NGINX App Protect directly in front of your app server, or you can deploy it in front of your API gateway or directly in the containers, and I will explain why, okay? So first of all, NGINX App Protect, it's an advanced WAF engine. This is very important, okay? It's not a mod security, okay? I will not explain the difference, but it's a premium WAF from advanced WAF. CI/CD friendly, yes. NGINX by design is CI/CD friendly, okay? So NGINX is something known by DevOps, okay? DevOps are used to deploying NGINX everywhere for their application. So they are used to deploying NGINX in their environments with Terraform, Ansible, Puppet, Chef, and all these CI/CD tools, okay? So NGINX by design is CI/CD friendly. And my last slide, I will show you the pipeline. It will be the most technical slide. And the last topic is, the last pro, let's say, is the support, okay? It's an F5 solution. It's not a community solution. So, okay, so I'm on transparent with you. I have a bug, we fix it. I have a feature request, we will develop it. This is NGINX Plus. So where to deploy this NGINX Plus? The big IP advanced WAF used to be, or is used to be deploying in a DMZ or in a zone in front of the apps. Okay. The NGINX App Protect is an instance, a platform that can be deployed everywhere because it's very lightweight and it exists in several form factors. So on the left, you can see software load balancer. So DMZ or in front of a zone, it could be an NGINX on an F5. Okay, makes sense. This is a traditional deployment. But the NGINX can be deployed as an API gateway, not in front, but has an API gateway. Okay, so I deploy an API, an NGINX App Protect has an API gateway, and I have an API gateway with an F5 WAF. Could be deployed as an ingress controller in Kubernetes. Okay, this is perhaps more technical, but application deploy in Kubernetes pods on-premise, in Azure, AKS, in AWS, EKS. We can deploy NGINX here. Okay, so you go to nginx.com or docs.nginx.com and we explain how to download the ingress controller. It's straightforward and it's very, very easy to protect your pods. And the last one, it's not my preferred because it's much more complicated to maintain, is as a sidecar directly in the pod. Okay, so it's more as a container, so it's more complicated here to maintain, but we can do it as a sidecar. So my last slide, more or less. Now, okay, now I explain the advanced WAF with the premium features. The NGINX App Protect, okay, the NGINX App Protect has, I would say, 70–80% of the feature from the advanced WAF, but it's more a lightweight. Okay, it's a lightweight platform. So I have the negative security, the positive security. I have some bot protection. Okay, so we do more or less the same protection, but the NGINX will fit perfectly in a pipeline, and this is where we should select NGINX. Okay, so it's let's say, okay, my DevOps deploy application now in Azure. Okay, or they deploy the application in OpenShift in Kubernetes. This is what they selected. Okay, and now as a SecOps, I'm a SecOps. I would like to delegate the security deployment to the DevOps. So what I'm gonna do as a SecOps, I will just create the policy. Okay, so you can see on the left side, the blue side, I will push the security policy. It's a JSON file, to be honest. We don't care. I will post this security file or these security files, like a catalog, in a repo, let's say GitHub or GitLab. And the pipeline will just say, okay, you want to deploy an app, you want to publish an app, you're a DevOps, okay, please select a policy, it's mandatory. And the pipeline will select the right policy and apply the policy on the NGINX in front of the app. This is a pipeline, okay? So straightforward, very easy, and the SecOps can maintain the policy and the DevOps deploy the NGINX and apply the policy, just applying the policy. So takeaways, as I told you, the key point here is it's the same engine between the big IP and the NGINX. Okay, so the logs, the config, everything is similar. It's exactly the same. The WAF, traditional environment, premium features, NGINX App Protect, modern app, modern environment, the cloud, the Kubernetes, all this kind of environment. This is the NGINX. And the last bullet point is something that I did not went deep into it. It's NAPDOS. The NGINX App Protect has an option to do DDoS as well with the behavioral DOS. It's a brand new product from the latest version. Andrew, over to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you both Matthew and Marie. We're just about wrapping up now, but we do have a few questions that have come through that I will read aloud. The first is for Marie, and it's regarding the difference between and the benefits towards using cloud proxy logs plus endpoint detection or some sort of EDR type solution on the endpoint. And can you comment on why companies may need both cloud proxy and EDR?
Yeah, so in general, I would say that having both gives you the maximum visibility. Of course, you get a lot of visibility having either cloud proxy logs or endpoint logs, but to combine them both will give you the maximum visibility. For instance, you might not be able to do things such as TLS inspection on the EDR solution, which you can do in the cloud proxy logs in some cases, but this will of course vary depending on your particular implementation, your particular solution, your particular needs. So I think this is also a topic for that you could contact us and we can have a more thorough discussion, particularly on your use cases. So yeah, it will vary, but the having both will give you the maximum visibility. And also the EDR solutions, of course, they're constantly adding new features, but in general, it might give you more like overall visibility if you also have the cloud proxy logs. So that would be our like top recommendations on that.
Great, thank you. And we have a few more questions coming in. This next question is for Matthew, and it is that they are in the process of migrating their applications to a Kubernetes environment, and how can Volterra help them?
Yeah, good point. So for the Kubernetes environment, it's not only Volterra. Okay, so as I explained, the NGINX fits well and perfectly in the Kubernetes environment. The Volterra is the power of Volterra is Volterra can be deployed directly in Kubernetes, and it is a SaaS. Okay, so the Volterra node the name is node. Okay, so the Volterra node will be deployed in front of your Kubernetes environment. So if it is in Azure, let's say it's an AKS, we deploy in the VNet directly, and this node is able to detect and to discover all your applications, all your services. So from an administration point of view, okay, it's a SaaS. So you understand it's a portal, okay? So you connect to your SaaS portal, and the Volterra environment will detect your application, say, okay, which one do you want to publish, or which one do you want to protect? And this node becomes your gateway. And on this node, we will enable DDoS protection, bot protection, WAF protection. Okay. So the Volterra is built for Kubernetes. Okay. So yeah, but if you want to go deeper, feel free to come back to us.
Okay. It looks like there's a few other things that we'll follow up with directly with some of these very specific questions. If there's no more questions, I just want to say thanks again to both of our presenters and for everyone who has attended today. We will also be uploading this presentation to our YouTube channel sometime in the near future. So if you do want to have a recap on it or send it to any of your colleagues, and you'll be able to find it on our YouTube channel, which you can find a link on our website as well. Otherwise, I want to say thank you once again and enjoy the rest of your day.